Hi there, Joshua Finn here from J&H Aerospace, and today we're going to talk about making some adjustable surfaces for free flight models. Might be something useful for RC as well. This is a Top Banana 800. As you can see, it's not a small airplane. And we want the ability to adjust this airplane to local conditions, different altitudes, etc. By the way, I guess I haven't introduced. This is Nebo. He is Budgie. But we want to be able to adjust to local conditions, different altitudes or whatever, so the flying speed of the airplane might change, because I'm going to trim this airplane out here locally, but this fall I'm going to take it to Denver, Colorado, where we're at 5,000 feet above sea level, and the trim on the airplane is going to change a little bit. The engine's going to run differently, so we'll need a different amount of incidence to get a good transition. Namely, it'll lose performance out there. And this bird wants something really bad. What's the matter, buddy? You mad about something? You salty. So anyway, we have a 440 bolt and blind nut here in my stab for stab incidence. I know that this airplane is going to need a little bit of extra incidence, so that's why I have this exposed. You would want to countersink it all the way down in a typical condition so that you could run this screw all the way out flat. This is a large airplane, so I'm using steel hardware on the tail. If you're building a rubber model, you might want to go with nylon, at least for the screw. And then if you're trying to get really light, you can actually drill directly into the wood, harden the wood up with thin CA, let that harden with CA accelerator, and then tap it for the screw threads. So that gives you a very, very lightweight option that adds so little weight that it's almost negligible. So anyway, like I said, we've got this screw mounted, but for our rudder trim tab, things are going to be a little different. So the traditional way of doing this is to just glue gurney flaps or trailing edge stock to the side of your rudder to affect trim. We're not going to do that. I want this to be neat and clean and adjustable. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut a trim tab in my rudder here, and I don't want that to be like a wire adjustable trim tab because those bend in storage and they get bumped. Generally just not a good situation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my sanding block here. My bird's not going to be happy about it, but I'm going to use my sanding block to cut myself a trim tab. And I'm cutting it on the wrong side. You'll understand why in a minute. By the way, that's not blood, that is cherry. Because we've been eating cherries and they squirted everywhere. Alright, so anyway, on my right side, because I want my adjusting rig to be on the left side, I am going to just cut in here. Caleb, can you go ask Mommy for a fresh, sharp razor blade? Because Daddy's are dull.
They're dull?
Yeah, they're dull.
Dull?
Dull. Very dull.
Dull.
Yeah, can you go ask Mommy for one, please?
Please, Daddy needs a razor blade.
A razor? Does Daddy not have any razor blades?
Daddy needs one that's not dull. So the reason I want that is now I have a trim tab here. Now notice it only goes one way. So I need to bevel this because I'm actually going to need to deflect this thing over for a right turn because I've already test glided this airplane just enough to know what it's kind of what it's going to need. The other thing is I want something so it doesn't hang up over here.
Here.
Thank you, sir. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a second cut down here just to relieve that hinge line slightly. That's not the hinge line, but anyway. So alright, and we still need a little bit of relief down here out at the trailing edge. And there we go. So now my trim tab moves freely. My bird has shown that he did not wish to leave the show. Oh well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bevel this edge. And this does not have to be extremely neat and tidy, but you want it enough that the hinge line is still going to be preserved, but I want plenty of travel over here. And that should be enough. We'll hope that's enough. I'm going to adjust this just a smidge it more. There we go. Just like that. Now, one thing you're going to run into is that monocoat, as strong as its bond is, that's going to tend to break down over time. So I'm going to squirt a little bit of CA in here. And what that does is that hardens up both the attachment of the monocoat to the surface as well as the mating surfaces. So it just gives you that much better of a result. And there we go, just like that. Now the next thing is we're going to make a mount. Actually, no, that's not the next thing. I am going to have a screw rig, which we'll go ahead and show you the screw rig. So it's this little thing. I've got an offset over here. I know from flying this airplane that it's not going to need a whole lot of left rudder. Well, it's not going to need left rudder trim. It's going to need right rudder trim. So I'm not interested in adding in a whole lot of left travel into this system. So what I'm going to do is I have a 256 blind nut here. Now you may ask, why are we changing screw sizes? That's because rudder adjustments are much more sensitive than stabilizer adjustments. So we want to be very precise in our offsets here. So I've got this assembly, and this, like I said, this is going to mount over here. So my rudder can come over that far, but it is going to have a screw to push the rudder over. We'll go ahead and we'll install that screw. I may need to switch this to a nylon screw because vibration is going to let this float around, and we don't want that. So this tab is going to have enough pressure to is going to have something pressuring it over here this way, but it needs something to hold it fast against the screw. So what we're going to do is we are going to put a torsion spring in our hinge line. So this is 10,000th piano wire. I'm going to take this and bend it over. Snip this off. So now I have this shape right here, like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my fin tab all the way over. And I'm going to, excuse me, this thing is quite large and awkward. Something about a giant airplane. So what I'm doing is I'm punching the bottom into my tab, punching the top into the rudder. Just like that. I don't know if that shows up real well. It's sticking into the top, into the fin here at the top, and at the bottom it's sticking into my tab. And so now I'm going to press it all the way in here. And so notice my tab is pushed back like this, and now it has pressure, so when I let it go, if I bend it around, there's pressure to push it back, just like that. So I don't need a rubber band or anything on there. Now that's secure. Now what I'm going to do is find out that I screwed up badly. See that? I punched it through the side of the fin. That's because I wasn't paying attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out. I'm just going to push it in, straight this time. Just like that. And this does not need a huge amount of pressure, just enough to hold it secure. So now I'm going to hit that with a tiny little bit of thin CA. Squirt, squirt. Good to go. Now, we're going to take our screw adjuster. We want our screw adjuster on this side. I want it mounted pretty far back, so I'm out as far on this tab as possible, and that gives me the most fine adjustment I can get. If I move it far inboard here, individual revolutions of that screw have a much greater leverage on that rudder. They have much greater impact on the offset. They have less leverage. We're not really concerned about getting lots of leverage, but we are concerned about precise adjustment. So I want it all the way back there, pushing against the trailing edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of mark with my razor blade where this rests on the monocoat, and I'm going to use that so that I can actually peel off some of the monocoat. Just like that. Now I'm going to put my trim arm back in here. Hit that again with thin CA. There we go. Now, I have that tab in there like so, and if I start screwing on it, you can see it starts moving over, just like that. All the way the other direction, and there you go. Now, like I said, I think I'm going to replace this screw with a nylon screw just to get a little bit more friction in that nut, because this is going to vibrate loose and change, literally it'll change my flight trim in flight during the engine run, because the vibration is going to be enough to shift that. But the other thing is it just shifts too easily in storage. So anyway, hope that's something that's useful to you, showing how to set up trim tabs and trim adjustments using adjustment screws on free flight models. Might be useful on RC as well. So anyway, we'll see you later.